Okay, just one person in the waiting room.
Just one? Oh my God. Because
Okay, wait a minute, or just admit them, or
just a minute, we can start. It's just, we have been off for a while. People have
yeah, right.
to let them know, make announcement. Can we start?
Yeah, I think go ahead and start. We're all set up.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, I'm sorry, I didn't know. Welcome everybody to this episode of Stopping the Violence. And I was just talking with Kira. We've been over 4 years strong every week, but recently we have started our webinars every other week. And very soon, probably in October or September, we will have our annual conference. We missed a year, but we will have another conference, Stopping the Violence. And we established like a company called, an organization called Stopping the Violence Best Task Force, faith leaders leading the way. So that will be, we'll keep you abreast and when that actual date will be. But again, today we just have a recording, and just like to introduce myself, my name is Reverend Zachary Oliver. I'm the Vice President of UPFU at North America. And we had been on this wonderful journey of bringing people on who have played a critical role in their communities, in the nation at large, in the area of stopping the violence. May it be from their pulpits and from faith leaders, social leaders, community leaders, judges, mayors, and on and on. We have had a plethora of different sectors of people, individuals, and groups coming on, sharing their hope, strengths, and the areas that they've played in stopping the violence in America. And it's been great. It's been a great and wonderful and beautiful journey because you realize that there are so many excellent people out there, concerned citizens, men and women who really care, who are really out there and not just caring from the back rooms or behind closed doors, but out there on the front line, making a difference wherever they are. And this is why we have established our organization, um, well, a sub-organization, if you know, the UPF is Universal Peace Federation, which is the original sponsor of this particular webinar. However, we've branched off because of the various people, as I have indicated, that have come on that are extraordinary. And we realize that there are so many best practices out there. This is why we have started the organization called Stopping the Violence Best Practice Task Force, uh, because there are a lot of people out there who are doing great things and you don't know anything about them. Or many times they're just silos, on their own, over there, over here, and over here. But when you find out what they're doing, it's extraordinary. And so, how can we play a better role and a critical role in bridging all of those incredible people together? And that's what we feel our final mission is with this stopping the violence, webinar that we've been hosting. Like I said, for almost 44 years now. But we have another person who was on previously, beautiful person. She is her, she's one of the jewels and the caveats that she brings it will dictate what that jewel will be, and that is mentoring the next generation using a vast repertoire of strategic development, sports, storytelling to educate and inspire that next gen, mentoring the next gen. So her name is Brianna Edwards. And if we could just go ahead and push the button and we can listen to her hopes, her strengths, and how she's played that critical role. So we welcome on the platform Brianna Edwards. I'm not able to hear. Hello, Kira. I don't think we can hear.
You can't hear the audio?
I can't.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me try one more time.
Greetings, beautiful souls. Happy Wednesday.
Oh, I was getting ready to say, I didn't know we had you were hosting this recording.
Nope, not me.
And it was me. I saw myself. But hold on, my daughter. It has brought us closer to several other people that are out there doing incredible, incredible work in their own way that God and destiny has guided them to be part of the mechanism, if you will, in curbing and stopping the violence from prevention to post-violent behaviors and et cetera, et cetera. So we've had police officers and police chiefs and mayors and religious leaders and so on, community activists. Everyone who's come on, we are extremely impressed. Now, originally, just for your edification, we started this webinar about 3 years ago, basically dealing with the gun situations. There's so many guns out there that are being used to harm other people unnecessarily. And then after we started 1, 2, 3 weeks, we realized that yes, there is a gun problem, but there's a more fundamental problem, and that is the problem of those who pick up the guns and harm other people. See, the gun is an inanimate object. It takes someone to pick it up. Then what are the root causes of people to pick something up to exercise and execute violence to others? And that's when we start to evolve into now we need speakers to help us understand how they have played a critical role in reducing the violence in their communities and in the nation as at large. So today we have a very special guest. I want to thank one of our Stopping the Violence leaders and committee leaders, VJ Smith, who's been working diligently to help us to bring people on board that is in his network. Today we welcome my dear brother, VJ Smith, who has played a critical role in these last 3 years in helping us, and even helping us with being an integral part of our last conference that we have, that we've been trying incrementally to create. We're going to make it happen one day. so many things that come up. Just want to introduce you and welcome you to the platform as well, Reverend VJ.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And God bless.
Yes. So what I like to say is just introduce our guest, uh, who will be speaking. Name is Brianna Edwards. Is a former professional athlete, coach, and resilient strategist dedicated to empowering young student athletes in unrepresented communities. With over a decade of experience in career advising, leadership development, financial coaching, which is extremely important, she has helped students and professionals navigate transition, build confidence, and achieve their goals. As the founder of the Trust the Process Counseling, Brianna leads workshops on leadership, college prep, financial literacy, while also serving as a head girls basketball coach at North Community High School. Her mission is to mentor, educate, and inspire the next generation of leaders through sports, storytelling, and strategic development. Want to invite, it's not my namesake, but my daughter's namesake, Brianna. And you might hear her over here. But Brianna Edwards, welcome to our platform. And we're glad.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah. So we would love to hear from you.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
platform is yours.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. Just kind of share a little bit about myself before, and thank you, did a great job reading that beautiful bio. It was awesome. I am, as he said, is a former professional athlete, but I'm going to take you guys back before all those accolades start to happening. So I am a North Side native of Minneapolis, Minnesota. If anyone on this call is familiar, it's a very drug infested, gang infested, violence infested, you name it. And I'm a product of all those things. And so growing up, my father was a street pharmacist. That's the best way I can say without, outing him. He street pharmaceuticals. My mom happened to be a person who actually got addicted to those street pharmaceuticals. And so growing up from 0 to 10, I always tell people that I went through more things than anyone who has lived and walked this earth. And people think that I say that that's crazy, and I think that I'm boasting, but it's the truth. Growing up with a mom that was addicted to drugs was very, very hard because even though she was a great parent, there's sometimes oversight is happens when you are experiencing someone who has an addiction. My brothers and my sister followed in the footstep of my father. So me being the youngest, I was exposed to a lot of different things. I seen my brother make crack cocaine in my mom's kitchen when I was 8 years old. And mind you, he was only 14. And at that exact time, about a couple months later, he was shot in front of me, in front of our house, which is crazy. People are like, wait, what? Yeah, so my 14-year-old brother was shot in front of our house while I was standing outside. My brothers have always been the protectors. When my father got locked up, they were the ones who had the guns in the house. And of course, I knew where they were and I had access to it. And my sister, she had access to it. And so knowing how I grew up from 0 to 10, I think after 10 it changed a little bit. Mom got saved and dad got out and all those things transpired. But up to 10 years old, it was very hard navigating that space, right? I always felt like I was different than my siblings and I was different than my environment, but I didn't know how. And now I know what that is, right? God used me to be the example and to be the light in my family. And I now recognize that. But I did partake in the same things my siblings did. I just was better at not getting caught. And I always tell people that, what does that mean? Right? I did hang out with kids that I wasn't supposed to. I did get into fights. I did hold guns and I did those things. And I started to share my story with my athletes. What saved my life was the day that I picked up a basketball because it gave me an opportunity to control my own destiny and to set out time for the things that I wanted, right? Basketball was the first opportunity that I recognized that I could be whoever I want to be. And I can control it based on the work that I put in. And so when I recognized that that was my thing, my mom recognized that that was my thing, and she started to push me academically because she was like, "All right, if she loves this thing, she can't play unless she has the grades." And so those things kind of went hand to hand. But I never got a straight A until I picked up a basketball. I was a D and F student all the way up to the 6th grade. I never got the great, it was always Brianna has a bunch of potential. It was never those conversations that Brianna has an opportunity to be successful. But when I recognized that basketball was my way out, it was an opportunity that it gave me an opportunity that I knew that I was going to change my life, but I didn't know I was going to change my family's life. And so now I am the aunt of 18, 19, and I just welcomed my first child into the world 4 weeks ago. He is a month. He turned a month yesterday. And what I do is every day I let people know that it's not where you start, it's where you finish. And so every day, even though I started off on the bad foot and I did the things that I tell my athletes not to do, I made a decision and a conscious effort that I was going to change my outcome, right? And so basketball allowed me to visit 43 of the 50 states in the United States for free. I didn't pay for it. I've traveled to 4 of the 7 continents just for basketball. I earned my master's degree and my bachelor's degree that I did not pay for because of basketball. And so I tell my kids, even if basketball is not your thing or sports aren't your thing, I'm an open book. And so when I say I'm an open book, I would always answer honestly on the things that I exposed myself to that could have cost me my life, whether physically or me being in some level of confinement because of my actions. And what's crazy is that my father doesn't even know that I did these things because most people don't know. I was really good at hiding these things. I was a straight A student who also was in a gang, which that's not as common as people think it is. And so I was able to teeter that line more than most kids can. And I thank God that I never jumped off the cliff. And I think it's because basketball allowed me to do so. And I share a story when I talk about trauma and overcoming trauma. I share a story with athletes and corporate professionals, and I talk about the time that I was in a car. And back then, the girls carried the guns because the boys were the ones to get checked in parties. And so I had it in my backpack. And I was high as a kite. I was 15 at the time. I smoked a lot of weed. And we got pulled over by a police officer. And I'm like, and they're searching everybody. And I'm like, I know I have a gun in my backpack. I'm like, my life is over. Like, I'm not going to be able to go to college, literally nothing. So the police officer gets to me, and I'm trying to act like I'm not high. And he was like, aren't you Brianna? And I was like, I don't know this man. So what happened is I just played his daughter the day before. So we played Washburn and I had my first 30-point game. He's like, I just seen you play yesterday. So he spends the next 10 minutes talking to me about basketball and never checks my backpack. That was nothing but God. Think about that. I had a gun in my backpack. He checked everybody else. Because of basketball, that saved my life and it provided me a safe space. And I don't know how it happened. I was just sitting there talking to that man, like, please don't grab this backpack. He talked to me about basketball and then he gave us a warning and sent us on our way. And I tell people all the time, basketball saved my life. It gave me an opportunity to be shielded in ways that only God has his hand on it.
Amazing story. I think you have some more stories, and just tell us a little bit about how you've turned that into becoming a mentor, mentoring others because of your experience that you probably can others can identify with you from your past, but you're now showing them how to overcome that and create their own narrative for their future.
Absolutely. The way that I do it, I first started off by doing it through coaching, right? I never wanted to be a coach. I wanted to be a mentor. I love sharing my story, but I didn't know how I can share it. And so there's nothing that a kid or a person can sit and tell me that I haven't either experienced myself or I have heard. And so I allow all the people around me not to use their story as an excuse, but to use it as fuel. And so when I talk about being a mentor, it's like, okay, yes, you may come from a mom who smoked crack. You may come from a dad who had 1,000 children and never took care of you, but that does not have to define who you're going to become. Find that thing that you love and pursue it endlessly. Work towards it. And no matter where you start, your life can be whatever it is. I grew up as a kid that we ate at the churches for dinner, right? We went to the food shelves. I don't know if anybody on this call has ever had powdered milk or powdered eggs. They're disgusting. And I vowed to myself that I would never allow my future children to experience that. And so I worked crazy hard to make sure that I can create the life that I wanted for myself. So when I sit and I talk to these students and they give me these stories that are heartbreaking, right? They're very heartbreaking to hear kids that are raising themselves. But that, okay, that I hear that, but how can we change your story and use this for good so that you can be ever come whoever you want to become. You don't have to go to college. And people are like, what does that mean? College isn't for everybody. You can become a hairstylist, you can become a plumber, electrician, all those different things. But what do you want to do and how are we going to get there? And so just giving them the formula to success, right? Find your goal, align it with your purpose and your passion, and start pushing yourself in that direction. And so if you don't know, that's when you t- uh you tie yourself to someone who may know the formula and they help navigate it. And so my job as a coach, as a consultant, is just exposing people to who they really are. They're already that person. My job is just to help them recognize who they are so they can get to where they're going. You're still muted.
So, so Brianna, when it comes to violence and you're working with the girls in the basketball team, what are some of the strategies you use to prevent them from falling in those traps in the community they're in?
Absolutely. I had this about to sound very frank. I use their own stories, right? If you're living in a household that you're not happy in, right? And you don't have the things that you want, that is your own motivation. And how I prevent them from being biased is that they get to see it, right? So my very first year that I got to North High, it was a story that hit nationwide. There was a basketball player slash football player who was murdered by a complete stranger. So the principal released them on an early release for them to do a protest because they was protesting for another a black male who was gunned down by police officers, right? And so she allowed them to go to the Capitol and protest. Well, this student decided he wanted to go home, and he actually he walked home and he got murdered, right? So my first year at the high school that I coached at, my kids was dealing with grief and trauma. This is a kid that they all went to elementary school with, they all went to middle school with. This is a great kid, straight A student, star quarterback on the football team. He just happened to, he didn't want to go to the protest because he had a boot on his foot because he had a fracture in his foot. He would have went to the protest, but he had a fracture in his foot, so he walked home in his boot, and a complete stranger shot and killed him. And I don't know if you ever heard this story for D Hill. They did a whole documentary on it for the football team. But yeah, so when it came to that, it made my job a little easier because they recognized that it was a direct impact on gun violence to the kids that I was serving, right? And so I said, what do we want to do about it? Mind you, they're already protesting. So if you know about I can't, but his name is really slipping my mind, but it happened. Was this 2021? And he got murdered. He was sleeping on his couch in his cousin's house, and they executed a no-knock warrant. They were looking for his cousin, and he had his license to carry in his hand, and they murdered him and they killed him. And so they were protesting that. So these kids are already activists and recognize that gun violence is a reality, but they were thinking, oh, it's police brutality, but they weren't thinking that was a direct correlation to their neighborhood because it's so far removed. And so I had 3 girls on my basketball team since I've been coaching have been shot, which is crazy to think the girls to be shot. They got shot at the state fair, hanging out with some boys. And so, what I really teach these girls and even these young boys is that make sure you are surrounding yourself with the right people. All of the kids that I've been around that got into anything outside of D Hill who got murdered on complete craziness were around kids that were exposing themselves to these different things. And so, what I do is just be honest with them. You are who you keep, the company that you keep. And even when you're doing the right thing, something still can happen to you. So what are you going to do moving forward to not expose yourself to these environments so that you can protect yourself and you can be a voice for your community? And so that's what I do.
Thank you so much. You know, another thing that you said, Brianna, that I thought was quite interesting. In your bio, you said that you work with teaching financial literacy.
Mhm.
That's quite impressive. And those are one of the skill sets that sometimes are missing within, at-risk communities. Can you explain that a little bit more for us?
Oh, absolutely. Actually, financial literacy is probably my favorite thing to talk about outside of talk about my life. Um, I've taught my mom financial literacy. Isn't this crazy to say? Like my mom always taught me save, 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 save. Yeah, you can save all day, but that same dollar you had 10 years ago is not going to be worth the same amount of money that you have today, right? And so I started teaching budgeting and organizing finances, saving, investing. And so the objective is this, is that a lot of times, especially if you know the statistics, Black and brown people spend more money but make less. So I'm gonna say it again, we spend more money, but we make less. So we have this idea to live this lifestyle based on what we're seeing. But in reality, we're in more debt. if you look at the percentages of how much of us don't have a savings that's over $1,000, it's crazy. So what I do when I teach financial literacy, I break it down to like the bare bones. I teach financial literacy to middle schoolers. Like
Mm,
I would do school stores, like, okay, you have $10 and these are the things that you want. How much money will you save? How much money do you want to do this towards this object? You can teach financial literacy to little kids by just putting a store in your house and the snacks that you have. And so the reason why that's so important to me is because a lot of the times in my community, a lot of our problems come from us not having money. And the reason why I say this is when you think about the people that I grew up with, were they robbing people? They didn't have money. Why were they stealing from stores? They didn't have money. Why were they selling drugs? They did not have money. And so financial literacy is a correlation to a lot of things that transpires in poverty, right? So if you can teach if you could teach a person how to fish, they'll live forever. So my objective is this: take the money that you have, let's organize it. Let's look at your bills. It look at your debt to income ratio, all these things, and how are we going to get you to a position that you can sustain yourself so that you're not putting yourself in positions to jeopardize your future or selling there's so many things people sell, but it's like, okay, let's look at your finances and see, do you have enough money to live? And if you don't, what passion or side hustle can we create so that you can build more money? And then when you get to another point, investing is the last thing I teach. Because if you don't know how to control the money that you have, you're not going to be able to have the money. You're not going to be able to control the money that you're going to get in the future. You'll just lose it. So I teach people how to control the $100 that they have. And then once we break down $100, okay, maybe we can do 200 and so on and so forth. And so, yeah, I've been teaching financial literacy and all of it is self-taught. Um, Being a broke college student taught me how to be financially literate and how to organize and budget and save and invest. And so that's why it's something that I'm super passionate about teaching because it is a correlation to so many things that people don't think about.
oh, thank you. Thank you. That's pretty brilliant. Thank you so much for that. I like to right now open up the floor to those who would like to make some comments or ask any questions. First, I'd like to call on who's out there, Reverend. Some of the people are not here today, but Dr. Reverend Franklin. We can't hear you. Can't hear you.
He probably got to fix his settings for his head.
Reverend Oliver, did you want me to stop the recording here?
I just want to hear Reverend Franklin, and then we can open it up.
Okay, perfect.
Phones.
Yeah. I think he got it together.
While we're waiting on him to come on, the question I'd like to ask, storytelling is very incredible, not only for fundraising, life-changing, but what made you go into the storytelling aspect of what you do?
The reason that made me is that I recognize that I've been through a lot. And so I didn't even talk about the mental health side of it and how trauma impacted my life. I tried to take my life twice, right? I was the kid that suppressed a lot of different things. And I never talked about my story out loud. And I recognized that all the tests that God had put me through was a part of my testimony. And it was imperative that that was tied to my purpose. And that was supposed to be my mission. That the reason why I went through everything that I went through was because I was supposed to share it. Right. And I'm very transparent. A lot of people are like, why are you so transparent? It's because I have to. My mission is something that happened to me is going to save someone else's life. And I say that with all honesty and all transparency. And it's the truth. I've come across kids, teachers, doctors, lawyers, you name it, telling me about something that they're going through that I've already been through. And so it's my job that because of what I've been through, I have to share it. And so I share it in different ways, right? You know, I help nonprofits with fundraising. Well, I've been a development director. So everything that I've ever done in my life is tied to someone in this room. And like even me sharing my story today, someone needed to hear what I needed to talk about today. I don't know who it is, but it's imperative that because of who God has made me to be, I have to use what I've been through to help someone else.
Beautiful. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we have to go back to that. I'm going to have, thank you, VJ, for that, Reverend. go back to Daryl Franklin, and then like to get back to you on maybe embellishing upon what you just said, and also the whole, because we've had speakers really just delving into their whole presentation and the impact of trauma.
Mhm.
There's all sorts of trauma, and I think each community and its demographics are different, but trauma is trauma. You know,
Yep.
even some people have historical traumas that this is why you're in a predicament because your grandfather, your great grandfather had gone through that ABC. So those traumas are originates from different people, different situations coming out of your different environments, and even your parents' environments and great grandparents. We'll get back to that. So Daryl Franklin, please
Yeah,
welcome to the platform.
thank you so much. Can y'all hear me now?
We can
Yep.
hear you.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, everybody. Brianna, oh my God, thank you so much for your incredible efforts of dealing with all the circumstances that you grew up in, and how you were able to survive all of those circumstances, and how you were able to process that in a way that enabled you to be able to find the strength to be able to serve the community and use your experience to empower others. That is incredible. Um, I just wanted to ask you, um, was there some mentor, or who were some of the people who inspired you in your life's journey? Heroes, or somebody who kind of gave you the I guess you can say the inspiration to go on and to surpass your immediate circumstances.
And it's starting to sound crazy. So outside of my mom, right? And that became later. I think I appreciated my mom later in life more so than as a kid. I watched a lot of TV because my house was very loud, meaning, my stepfather was an alcoholic. My brothers and sisters in and out of the house, people breaking into our house because, even though we were the richest of the poor, if that makes sense, because we had TVs in every room and we always had food, that was made that we felt like the people in the community felt that we had money. So people always was robbing our house. I remember I always used to get home the first. I don't know how many times I walked into our house and someone's running out the back door with our TVs because they had broke into the house, and it's
Wow.
crazy, right?
Wow.
And so my inspiration initially came through the TV, and people are like, what does that mean? My very first inspiration was Jerry Springer, and they're like, what does that mean? I've always wanted to be a talk show host. So I was fascinated with Jerry because of how he carried himself. Now, granted, that show is terrible for a kid to be watching. Okay. I would not recommend any kid under the age of 15 to watch that show. But
Right.
I watched it because my imagination saved my life in my house because it was so chaotic. I would create my own talk show between my dolls and stuffed animals. And I'd be like, today on Brianna's, I don't even know what I used to call it, right? So Jerry Springer was my first inspiration in regard to, I said, I'm going to be on TV and I'm going to have my own show just like Jerry. When I picked up a basketball, Kobe Bryant became like my lifeline. Everything that I've ever accomplished was because I watched that man like a hawk, his mannerisms, how he talked. Because when you don't have someone in front of you that's an example, you got to find the inspiration somewhere, right?
Right.
I knew I didn't want to be a nurse like my mom, right? I didn't want to sell drugs like my dad. My brothers and sisters all got GEDs. I'm the first one to graduate from high school, and I'm the youngest. So I found my inspiration on TV. Now, on the journey, did I have people that believed in me? Absolutely, and pushed me. 100% between my first basketball coaches. But I'm gonna be completely honest, my story is a little bit different. I was my motivation. My mom always says, Brianna, I wasn't the person that pushed you, you pushed you. My siblings say it all the time. I don't know. And I ask God all the time, and I said, you know what, God's probably tired of me asking this question. Why did you make me so different around the different compared to everybody around me? Because I was just so different. I was my inspiration. Once I figured out what I wanted, nothing was going to stop me from accomplishing it. I told my mom at 12 years old that I was going to retire her, and she looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, I'm going to Mom, I'm gonna retire you. I'm gonna take care of you. And she was like, What? Okay, all right. And it was just something in me, and it's only God. I recognize that I wanted to be different. And I think every couple years in family, somebody's born to change the narrative and the perspective of that family. And I think that's what my job was. Because when my mom got pregnant with me, my dad stopped beating her, right? He literally he beat her through every other pregnancy besides me. And so everyone's lives changed for the better when I was born, and I don't know why. But it's my job to make sure that my nieces and nephews and my son has an example so they can have someone they have direct correlation to and contact to be their motivation. And that's why became hard for me. Because when you talk about trauma and mental health, when you become a pillar and you don't have nobody to talk to, you get those pressures, those things become harder. But yeah, outside of like the mentors that I had along the way, but I was my first inspiration. I found my inspiration through people I watched on TV.
Okay,
That is
Kira.
fantastic. That's that reminds me, it's a really famous person, in our church. This person is a musician, and I had a really interesting conversation with him. And he always had the inspiration. He told me, he confided in me, it was like a personal thing, right?
Yeah.
And I never told anybody. I'm not going to tell who it was, but he shared with me that he always had this inspiration to be a teacher. And what he would do, like similar to you, he would arrange dolls and different dolls and and whatever stuffed animals, and he would practice teaching to those dolls
Yep.
and stuffed animals. And um, so that makes sense. And I really appreciate you just embracing this vision that motivated you, and you just hung on to it. So that's fantastic. That's fantastic. Thank you
Thank
so
you. I
much.
appreciate
All right.
that.
Kira,
Yeah.
we can
Yeah.
stop there. Thank you so much, Reverend. Kira. Yeah. Yeah. All right, brothers and sisters. Always those presentations are excellent. And so I just want to see where everybody is. I don't see anybody. There you go. So the floor is open. Like to hear from a few people before we come into our closing, but go ahead, Reverend Franklin. Continue to carry on. Again, we can't hear you. Your headset.
Now, can you hear me now?
Now we can
Yes.
hear you.
Oh, okay, great, great. Yeah, I got to work on that, this technology, man. I just got a new computer and I'm still working it out. So, pardon me, everybody. But yeah, what that goes to that help us to understand that we really life is pushing us to be creative, because what I'm hearing from her incredible resilience is that she was able to take and manifest the she was able to incorporate Jesus's words when he said that that he is in this world but not of this world. And God is pushing us to look deep inside ourselves to understand that we have the power to sidestep the illusions of the matrix of this world, what the world is saying that we are, or what circumstances are trying to dictate who we should be. She was able to identify that she was not of that situation that she grew up in, that she had the power to be able to go to transcend that world by looking inside and finding out mentors. Now, it's very easy for all of us to get caught into that trap because all of us had dealt with different traumas within our life. I even had a conversation with a good brother that some of us know already, and he was talking about how he was struggling over past circumstances where he brought to the table ideas that benefited others on at least 3 different occasions, and other people got the credit. And so he was sharing with me that he's still dealing with that he has offered something else to the table. And he was wondering whether or not the same situation was going to happen again. So in the course of this conversation, what we were able to come to the point that this is why we need each other, in order that we would be able to not become victim of circumstances of bringing the past back to our present. That within us lies the temple of God, and that as we make that effort to understand that we are beyond these circumstances, and that we make that decision and we work together, that we will be able to influence and affect the future. And so, how to be able to process, we need each other. We need to continuously find our mentors, find people who were in that circumstances, who showed a real life substantial blueprint on how they were able to change that script, change that narrative. And this is what God is impelling us to do. And as we do that, we find empowerment of how to be able to use our miserable situation and use it as rocket fuel to get to that destiny. Because everybody has a gift, no matter what their circumstances are. Everybody has a gift, and you don't have to go to college. But if we just begin, as we begin to start talking with each other, and to be able to understand that is no greater therapeutic, there's no greater therapeutic element than the interaction with another human being who is sincere, who is authentic, and who can receive you and not have any perceptions, but just to be in the present with you. Within so many inspirations can come from that interaction and that communication and that authentic exchange. And so that was some of the takeaways, that I got from that. And yeah, thank you for allowing me to share. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. I appreciate it. You're quite right. Floor is open.
Okay, hello everybody. Thank you, Dr. Franklin, for that follow-up of your first observation. Thank you. Good to see you, Brother Oliver, in live.
Yeah.
And I'm going to piggyback a little bit off of Dr. Franklin. Jeremiah 29:11 says that God has a plan and a purpose, a plan of good and not of evil. And then I'm going to go to a colloquialism that says it's not about how you start, it's how you finish. And she took her experience and turned them into a positive situation. Somewhere in her young mind, she knew where she was. However, she made a choice. She made a decision that she didn't want to remain there. And she started working a plan in her young mind as to how she was going to, get out. So her life's testimony, it will save much people alive. And that's our path, our journey as well, to help those along the way with what we've been through or what we suffer. Some things we don't want to talk about. But here's the key. Someone will someone will talk to you about what you don't want to talk about, and the Holy Spirit will bring it up, that you can put that person in a place that no longer allows the enemy to torment them, thinking that they're the only ones that have been through that. So I appreciate. I wasn't on the call that day, but I appreciate seeing that video. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. The floor is still open. Hey, Wayne.
Hello. I came in a little bit late, but I did catch the spirit of Brianna. And I think the one question if she were live here, I would like to ask her is, beyond Jerry Springer, who she was inspired of being a talk show host, and she loved the style that he has, the ease that he did it, or Kobe Bryant, his style. And she found something inspiring and uplifting by looking at those two very different men. But I would want to ask her, what people, what ideas that are in the public dialogue now, what writers, what books did you find new hope in beyond what you have already? So that would be my question I would like to ask her, because I think it's important to know who she is aligning herself with. And there's so many people that are really doing good things on different levels that are going on. And her belief in God is certainly strong, is certainly evident. Her belief in the Bible and connection to the Bible is real. But all of us, we have that foundation also, but it is the age of true parents. So I always tend to want to go into that kind of discussion in some way with her. So I'm kind of just rambling a little bit now, just giving some thoughts that I have from what I heard and seeing her. Yeah, that would be it.
All right, thank you, Wayne. You know, actually, I think her story that she shared, which she had the gun in her backpack, and I thought that was an incredible story. That spoke volumes of her attitude, and she was very conscious of what she was doing and knew it was wrong. Even then, you know, it's just the way she said it. She says, "Please don't ask me to look at my backpack," but as God would have it, because he knew that she would play a critical, positive role in the future. The guy got caught up with seeing her, and it wasn't by coincidence. He's the one who pulled her over, and she played basketball with his daughter that night before, and actually she did a good job, an impressive job, that he wanted to talk about it. So, but her comments while she was sharing those points was, you know, my life would have been over with, you know, and that's not what I wanted. I didn't want my life to be over with, you see. So I thought that that, to me, that kind of attitude spoke volumes. Another thing is, I don't know why she chose Jerry Springer, but I think she said she just liked his style. But also she articulates well. You know, you think about it, about her story in the beginning. She was just sharing that you know, her father was what is he, a street pharmacist, right? And her mother was addicted. But the irony of the thing, even though her mother was addicted, but her mother played a critical role in forcing her to study. That's what she said. So I wanted to ask her, how did that really play out? But somehow her mother was conscious enough to say, look, if you don't finish this homework, you can't go anywhere, you know, especially in an environment that she said she was in. So it's just incredible how, as we are speaking, how people can be in those environments and still emerge out of those environments in such a way that she has, and many of them have. So that speaks volumes about how God chooses people, how God is looking at what we in our language, the able type people that are out there, you know. And I think it's our job to play a critical role and helping to galvanize them as we go on. Dr. Madeline, I think now is the time to take in full force, stopping the violence best practices task force, because there's just too many rich, beautiful, wonderful, excellent people out there that are looking to have an organization like us play a critical role in their lives and what they're doing, and even being a liaison for them and others to come together. The floor is still open.
Yeah, well, let me tell a quick story about Jerry Springer.
Okay.
I retired from my ministry, House of Judah Empowerment Outreach Ministries. So I went to see Jerry Springer one time. And from that time, Jerry Springer would send a bus to Delaware for us to come to his recordings for free, right? So in that process, and when I tell this story, eyebrows always raise, right? However, it was so many people that took the bus trip to Jerry Springer that received Jesus Christ on the way back from seeing Jerry Springer. And the last trip we did, I asked his producer if I could do an altar call when we went to break. He talked to Jerry Springer. Jerry Springer said, yeah. So during a commercial, I was on the stage giving an altar call to the audience for people to receive Jesus Christ. And at that particular time, Jerry Springer also received Jesus Christ. And that might have been maybe 2015, 2016.
Amazing.
Wow. Praise God. Man.
Because see, I don't put God in a box. I don't put God in a box, and I don't put true parents in a box, because they serve the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
That's right.
You know what I mean? So we use the tools that we have in our hands to bring people into the presence of God, because everybody's looking for something. That's why this violence is running rampant, because everybody's looking for something. Everybody's looking for a place where they can be loved, where they can be revered, where they can be seen. So in and through it all, there is more than one way to bring people into knowledge and understanding. And I trust God. And I'm one of them people that I'll say I was interesting. I was interesting person before I came into the knowledge of God. And he have elevated me into a different atmosphere. But I'm still interested, and more than not, I'm more interested in him. And whatever tool he put in my hand, I will use it.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen.
That is powerful. How ironic that is that she would be talking about Jerry Springer and you had that.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you heard this. I believe I was thinking that you weren't on at that time when she originally spoke.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, you missed.
I was probably out being interesting. But it's a beautiful story, and I appreciate the fact that she talked about financial literacy.
Yes, important.
Because what did she say? People rob because they don't have money. People sell drugs because they don't have money. You know what I mean? There's a reason. It might not be for the things that people do. 9 times out of 10, they have a reason why they do those things, whether they understand it or not. You know what I mean? But we know poverty is the culprit when it comes to violence a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And also it was an interesting comment too that was raised. And I believe, when you all were able to come to that point where you brought her story where her mom told her that she needs to I forgot exactly what her mom told her to do, but her mom told her that she needed to focus on school, otherwise she end up, going in a wrong direction, something like that.
Like she couldn't go out.
Right, exactly. She couldn't go out. And her mom was able to give her that guidance, even though she was also, struggling. But still, she was able to give her that guidance from that place that is associated with her, heavenly parental heart, motherly heart. And what that shows is that there lies God. There lies the expression of people's original minds. Even though they're in a really dark situation, there is that instinct that always shows up when it's necessary. And she was able to go beyond that situation as well. And that gives us some insights about how to process a lot of stuff that's going on into the world today. Because I was having a Zoom call with some friends of mine, and I just got I just overemphasized about the importance of us doing this project by using negative references of the world. But that's not the way to do it, because the way to do that is to empower others about the alternative and not to use negative references, to use the positive possibilities. And that is what I was seeing that was showing up even in that dark place. And that's, that really just, I guess you can say, solidifies my resolve to be able to speak more about possibilities and not being overwhelmed by what we are seeing in today's news narrative.
Thank
And it's
you.
like you said, Brother Franklin, the original mind and the original heart, you know what I mean, interceded. The mother had her situation, but that doesn't mean it was a situation that she wanted to be in or she was proud of. Her
Right.
original mind and her original heart knew that she didn't want her daughter to experience that.
Right.
Very,
Exactly.
very
Showed up.
It showed up big time.
Get Wayne before we go.
Okay, well, I love your comments, Dr. Madeline and Daryl. You really hit on something that is thought-provoking for me. It is normal for these brothers and sisters born into poverty, born into miserable situations, to be angry. It's unnormal. It's not natural not to be angry about it, resentful or bitter about it, because the original mind knows that there is something that should have been given to us from the day we were born. And so the original mind is alive, and that's an expression. It's kind of a very, it comes out negative, but it's an expression of the original mind that something is wrong here and I don't like it. I don't want it. And I want something better. So both of you have touched on that. So it gives me a greater understanding to the emotions that my brothers and sisters who are going through this are exhibiting. Very good. I love dialogue.
Wayne feel like preaching, I think, Brother
Yeah, he was
Oliver.
preaching.
Yeah, preacher Wayne, go ahead, my brother.
I'm on it.
Okay, I think we're coming to the close. It's 2:59. I want to always thank each and every one of you for being here, for all your rich and innovative and comments that you make. You really make this Stopping the Violence webinar worth it. And I think over the years, maybe we won't have a whole bunch of people all the time, but I know over the years to come, people are going to relook at these recordings.
Yes.
And it's going to be very helpful for thousands of people in the future. We're not talking about yin yang stuff. We're not just intellectualizing, we're not giving stats and numbers, but we're just going to the core of the heart of things.
Yes.
And that's where lies the true answers to resolve things. And that's why, these people, when you look at them, we can get on the phone, what's the stats of how many people were killed yesterday and how many guns are out there, blah, 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 blah. Those things are fine. They have their place. But this webinar has been rich, and everyone who comes on, the speakers, 99% of the speakers who come on, they're willing to come back. They're willing to play ball with us. They're willing to unite with us. They're willing to play, to create something new with us, and so that speaks volumes to not me, but it speaks volumes to those brothers and sisters, you who come on and, make your rich and deep original mind comments. The
like
people
that.
connect to, So anyway, as you know, we're going to have this webinar every 2 weeks. So the week after next, we'll have another one. Anybody, again, if you have a guest or someone that you like to recommend, please let me know. But it will be every 2 weeks. But we have been going strong for close to 4 years, right? And not missing.
Yes. And when you think about it like that, I think about it like this. Jesus only ministered for 3 years.
That's right.
His public, profound ministry was 3 years. So, baby, you've done it.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
I appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so we've done it together. I couldn't do it without you guys. Guys are incredible, wonderful. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everybody. Clark, I'm not Clark. I don't know why Clark. Daryl. Thank you. And also my sister here, our queen, who's our mother right here. She holds the fort. She holds it well. Okay. Yeah. So
Amen.
we'll talk. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next.
Okay. Until we meet again. God bless.
Okay.
You,
Thank you.